Baik, terima kasih kerana menontonnya AWANI bersama saya Nabilah, Khaleeda. Dan apabila bercakap berkenaan dengan dunia kesahawan, cabaran bukan saja tentang soal modal, tapi hari ini kita akan bersama dengan dua individu yang memainkan peranan penting dalam ekosistem PKS negara, di mana kita akan membincangkan bagaimana Equinas yang bukan saja melabur tapi turut mencipta nilai melalui inisiatif seperti Iltizam Catalyst. So kita akan selami cabaran utama yang dihadapi oleh perusahaan kecil dan sederhana PKS dan bagaimana program Iltizam Catalyst itu sendiri oleh Equinas ini menjadi pemangkin perubahan kepada para usahawan Bumiputera. Jadi dua individu yang saya sebutkan tadi di kanan saya terlebih dahulu adalah Encik Hizwani Hassan, pengarah hal ehwal pihak berkepentingan Equinas. Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Okey, Alhamdulillah. Jadi di sebelah sana adalah Puan Wan Nadia Farhana, Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif dan juga pengasas KidiCare. Assalamualaikum, sihat ke?
Alhamdulillah, sihat.
Alhamdulillah. Jadi kita nak berbincang lebih lanjut berkenaan dengan PKS ini. Mungkin kita boleh mulakan terlebih dahulu dengan Encik Hizwani. Kalau kita nak cakap peranan Equinas ini sebagai pelabur ekuiti persendirian yang giat mencipta nilai untuk syarikat-syarikat yang dilabur, mungkin apa yang boleh dirumuskan sebagai masalah-masalah utama yang dihadapi oleh PKS pada waktu ini?
Okey, sebelum itu pertama kali terima kasih, dan kedua betul seperti apa yang Puan Nabilah kata tadi, kita Equinas syarikat pelaburan, kita melabur dalam syarikat yang besar. Tapi pada masa sama kita tahu bahawa kepakaran kami boleh digunakan untuk membantu PKS. Jadi itulah kami membuat program Iltizam Catalyst. Dan untuk PKS ni, terutama sekali Bumiputera, masalah mungkin ada 5. Pertama dari sumber dana dan modal macam Puan cakap tadi. Kedua adalah pengurusan kewangan. Ketiga dari segi pemasaran, marketing. Dan juga sekarang ni dalam dunia teknologi, mereka mungkin tidak mahir menggunakan teknologi atau mengadaptasi. Kelima, pematuhan. So kalau kita jumpa PKS ni, banyak dia kata asyik kena saman sebab dia tak tahu apa yang dia perlu buat. Dan last sekali adalah kepimpinan. Dan kepimpinan ni selalu kita take for granted sebab kebanyakan PKS ni dia bermula sebagai hobi atau bermula sebagai minat, dan bila dia dah besar dia actually tak sedar yang dia perlu ada kepimpinan.
Tapi itu kalau kita dengar dari perspektif Equinas sendiri. Tapi dari segi perspektif usahawan, dari segi jenama itu sendiri, mungkin Puan Wan Nadia boleh kongsikan apa yang dialami terutama untuk KidiCare dan bagaimana Puan Nadia mengatasi masalah tersebut.
Terima kasih Puan Nabilah. Okey, sebenarnya orang nampak buat bisnes ni nampak macam semua je kat atas kan. Tapi orang tak tahu yang kaki tik kat bawah tu terkapai-kapai. Jadi sebenarnya cabaran tu banyak. Tapi benda yang paling memberi kesan kepada saya adalah bakat ataupun staff dia sendiri. Sebab kami dalam KidiCare ni terapi center untuk anak special kan. Jadi tak semua orang ada kesabaran, kemahiran ataupun empati untuk menjaga anak-anak ni. So benda tu sangat memberi kesan lah. Memang sangat mencabar lah untuk cari talent pekerja tu lah. Okay. Dan yang kedua, cabaran yang kedua adalah pengurusan kewangan. Sebelum ni kita buat je, kita buat bisnes sebab atas dasar keperluan. Tapi bila kita berkembang, kita tak tahu macam mana nak menguruskan kewangan dengan betul. So bila kita join Iltizam Catalyst ni, at least kita ada orang yang boleh membimbing kita lah untuk menguruskan semua kewangan, HR dan operasi harian lah.
Sebelum saya berbalik kepada Encik Hizwani, mungkin Puan boleh kongsi lebih lanjut tentang KidiCare ni. Bagaimana ia lain sebab apa yang dijaga, apa yang dikhususkan di KidiCare adalah kanak-kanak istimewa. Jadi apa bentuk pengkhususan ataupun dari segi care yang berlainan dengan tempat penjagaan yang lain?
Okey, KidiCare Terapi Center ni sebuah pusat terapi untuk kanak-kanak dan remaja. Kita menerima seawal 6 bulan, bayi seawal 6 bulan sehingga 19 tahun. So kita menjalankan terapi cara kerja dan juga latihan vocational lah untuk anak-anak ni, anak-anak special seperti autism, Down syndrome dan juga masalah-masalah lain lah, masalah pembelajaran dan sebagainya. Jadi kita bantu anak-anak ni dari segi, bukan sahaja dari segi terapi, tapi bantu untuk mencungkil potensi dia yang selalunya dipinggirkan. Okay, so kita nak anak-anak ni still ada harapan, still ada orang kata masa depan yang selalunya kita abaikan ataupun kita tak tahu macam mana nak buat. Jadi kami di KidiCare sangat committed untuk bantu mereka, walaupun mereka tak mampu dari segi orang kata akademik, tapi at least mereka boleh menjaga diri sendiri. Mereka tak perlu susahkan orang lain bila mereka besar. At least diorang boleh berdikari, diorang boleh duduk sendiri. So kita tak nak lagi dengar berita-berita yang kata anak-anak OKU ni dikurung, diabaikan, ditinggalkan, ataupun yang paling yang latest tu yang dalam berita dibunuh sebab tak ada siapa yang nak jaga. So kami nak diorang boleh jaga diri sendiri, at least boleh masak sendiri, kalau tinggal boleh pakai baju, dia tak susah korang. Itu kita punya our aim lah dekat Kiri Camp. So that's why kita start awal daripada baby, kanak-kanak, lepas tu remaja.
Ini satu inisiatif yang baik sebenarnya, tapi mungkin cabaran ataupun kekangan itu apabila kita menyentuh berkenaan dengan pekerja. Kita perlukan seseorang yang orang kata betul-betul layak, yang betul-betul berkemahiran dan ada pengalaman untuk menjaga anak-anak dan juga remaja yang istimewa ini. Tapi tadi Puan Nadia ada menyebut tentang iltizam catalyst. Ini saya nak balik kepada Cik Hizwani. Jadi Equinas telah membawa satu solusi membantu PKS ataupun PMKS dari seluruh Malaysia, dari pelbagai sektor dalam bentuk program iltizam catalyst yang selama 12 bulan ni boleh dianjurkan secara percuma, secara free.
Betul.
Jadi mungkin Cik Hizwani boleh kongsikan lebih lanjut dan kenapa ditawarkan 12 bulan percuma itu.
Okey. Tapi sebelum tu balik pada contoh yang diberi tadi, kita dengar tadi Puan Nadia bercakap tentang talent, dapatkan talent. Jadi itu salah satu benda kami cover dalam kepimpinan. Jadi talent biasanya kalau kita jumpa PKS, dia akan cari talent yang pandai buat benda. Tapi sebenarnya dia akan belajar sebenarnya talent satu, tapi yang paling penting attitude. Jadi kebanyakan PKS yang kami bantu atau ajar, dia akan berubah. Saya kena cari attitude penting. Dan kedua, bila orang tu dah masuk, dia kena jaga dan maintain dan motivate. So normally PKS dia lupa that aspect sebab dia fokus pada bisnes. Itu saya sambung daripada apa yang dicakap tadi lah.
Aspek sahsiah.
Ya. So yang 12 bulan ni sebenarnya masa kami mula buat program ni, dia bermula daripada dulu bila kita membantu PKS. Dulu kami ada program lain membantu PKS dan kami lihat Bumiputera Business ni isu dia sama. Macam tadi yang saya cakap, yang isu-isu tu semua Bumiputera Business akan ada benda yang sama. Jadi kami Equinas rasa masa dulu kami bantu 3-4 syarikat setahun. Jadi kita rasa kita perlu buat lebih lagi dan kita perlu merangka program yang baru, dan Catalyst ni adalah program baru tahun 2022 untuk membantu lebih banyak. Jadi sekarang ni kita dah 57 PKS dah bantu selama 3 tahun ini, dan setahun tu pun tambahan. Dulu 6 bulan, jadi 9 bulan, sekarang jadi 12 bulan sebab kita rasa kita perlu membantu lebih. Dan dalam masa 12 bulan tu, 6 bulan pertama tu ada latihan yang setiap bulan ada 3 hari latihan, dan setiap PKS dia beri coach, mentor yang khusus. Jadi dia pilih siapa yang boleh bantu dia, mentor khusus membimbing tangan, dan akhir sekali bila dah habis program tu kita akan pantau. Dan kita akan mengukurlah keberkesanan program ini.
Jadi sekarang adalah tahun ketiga.
Tahun yang akan datang tahun keempat. Jadi ni kami datang hari ni nak habaq yang esok mula 16 hari bulan Oktober mula buka untuk pengambilan untuk program tahun 2026. And percuma.
Dapat juga 12 bulan percuma.
Dapat 12 bulan. Jadi saya rasa kos dia kalau betul-betul kira masuk program ni 100,000 kot seorang. Tapi kita Equinas akan cover.
Wah.
Jadi kami hanya memerlukan komitmen. Komitmen.
Jadi kalau sebab kita faham kita nak ukur keberkesanan tu. Jadi macam mana dari segi iltizam catalyst ini, mungkin apa impak yang telah dijana dari program iltizam catalyst kalau kita nak tengok daripada yang sebelum-sebelum ni?
Okey, jadi apa kami buat tiap-tiap tu ada pengukuran dia, tapi sebelum pengukuran tu dari segi modul ataupun area yang mereka akan buat melalui program kami, pertama adalah dari segi penjenamaan, maknanya branding. Kedua dari segi adaptasi digital, kami bantu dia orang dari segi adaptasi digital. Ketiga kepimpinan, dan akhir sekali dari segi pengurusan kewangan. Jadi apa yang kami ukur, saya bagi contoh tahun 2024 lah. Pertama dari segi hala tuju perniagaan, bila kita buat kita punya ukuran 95% yang masuk program 24, dia punya hala tuju lagi jelas. Dari segi kemampuan keusahanan dan kepimpinan, 89% meningkat. Dari segi penjenamaan 79% meningkat, dan dari segi keuntungan 68% meningkat dia punya keuntungan. Jadi itu cara kami measure. KPI ini bukan kami letak pada usahawan, kami letak pada diri kami, memastikan Equinas tidak shock sendiri, kami buat benda ni betul-betul kena ada measure.
Maksudnya kita nampak trajektori yang positif di
dan
dua pihak.
Equinas sebagai syarikat pelaburan milik kerajaan, kami nak memastikan apa-apa yang kami labur tu ada hasil dan tidak rugi, sebab ni duit rakyat.
Hasil tu saya nak tanya kepada Wan Nadia. Mungkin sebagai seorang yang mendapat bantuan Iltizam Catalyst ni, bagaimana dari KiriCare sendiri, apa antara kesan ataupun impak yang dirasakan dalam menjalankan perniagaan?
Okey, sebelum masuk Catalyst tu saya rasa macam kita dah tersusun. Tapi bila masuk Catalyst tu, sebenarnya banyak lagi benda yang kita kena belajar. Macam pada saya punya prinsip adalah walaupun kita business owner, tapi kita tak perlu pandai buat semua, tapi kita kena tahu semua. So at least kalau kita ada staff pun kita boleh monitor. So pada saya lah impact yang paling besar adalah memang kita punya ni lah hala tuju. So ke mana kita nak pergi? Sebab bila kita mula bisnes kecil berdasarkan kita punya keperluan, tapi bila kita grow, kita lost. Kita tak tahu nak ke mana. Tak ada siapa yang nak bimbing kita. Latar belakang family pun kita tak ada orang yang buat bisnes. Jadi that's why lah saya memang mencari program yang boleh bantu kita. So bila kita masuk dalam Equinas ni dengan 4 konsultan, lagi tambah lagi dengan coach, dia sangatlah membantu orang cakap melancarkan kita punya growth kita. Untuk kita ke depan kita nak rancang apa. Kita belajar plan the year, kita belajar macam mana nak buat account. Kita belajar lagi macam mana kita nak lead the group supaya kita boleh bentuk talent pool yang berkualiti. So nanti bila kita nak kembang lagi, kita nak ada branch, kita dah ada kita punya foundation tu. So itulah satu lagi apa yang kita belajar daripada Iltizam Catalyst ni, dia sangatlah praktikal. Kita boleh terus buat, apply dan terus nampak hasil dia. Yang saya rasa impact yang paling besar sekali yang KiriCare dapatlah daripada Iltizam Catalyst.
Dua benda lah. Kami nak pastikan kami bukan shock sendiri. Ni kena ada impact, dan kedua tidak membazir waktu mereka. So bila kami merangka program ni, apa-apa kursus kita buat kena singkat. Yang penting kita pergi tempat dia. So tadi bila dia cerita tu saya teringatlah. Dalam setiap syarikat yang masuk program ni akan dapat sekurang-kurangnya 8 orang yang akan bantu dia. Dia ada 4 konsultan yang setiap konsultan ada at least 2 orang, dan Equinas ada 2 orang. So kita akan sentiasa
kira satu tim lah tu, satu tim 8 orang. Kita dapat satu contoh nyata real life example apabila mendapatkan program daripada Iltizam Catalyst. Jadi mungkin kalau untuk usahawan-usahawan di luar sana yang berminat nak menyertai program ini, mungkin apa syarat-syaratnya dan bagaimana sebenarnya cara untuk memohon program Iltizam Catalyst untuk tahun hadapan 2026 dan juga yang selama 12 bulan yang percuma tu.
Yang penting pergi saja website kami di Iltizam Equinas. Dekat situ ada borang dia. Kami buat borang simple dan yang penting usahawan Bumiputera. Dia kena ada keuntungan 2 tahun dan dia punya revenue dia between 300,000 hingga RM1 juta. So ni memang kami pilih syarikat yang 300,000 ke RM1 juta sebab kalau lain-lain size dia ada pelbagai kemudahan atau skim kerajaan yang ada. So kami memilih 300,000 ke RM1 juta. Dan kami akan buat interview lah. Kita nak ambil 25 syarikat setahun. Dan setakat ini dah 57 yang masuk program ini.
Alhamdulillah. Kita nak tambahkan lagi figure tu ataupun angka tu bergerak ke hadapan, especially tahun hadapan dengan galakkan 12 bulan percuma. Jadi mungkin sedikit nasihatlah Cik Azwani nak kongsikan kepada usahawan-usahawan di luar sana, kalau diorang tak dapatkan program ni, apa yang rugilah apa?
Okey. Kalau tak dapat program ni, cuba lagi sebab saya rasa pun 2 kali apply kan?
Saya 2 kali apply.
Dia 2 kali apply. Jadi tak semestinya tahun ni tak dapat, tahun depan. Dan jika ada tak dapat, tanya kami kenapa. Dan kami akan ajar macam mana nak improve. Kalau saya nak bagi nasihat untuk usahawan in general daripada pengalaman kami, pertama kena fokus. Jadi jangan tamak. Maknanya kalau anda punya bisnes adalah contoh ni KiriCare, janganlah pula mula buat sekolah menengah, jangan pula buat sekolah rendah. So you fokus. Dan tambahan kedua, macam Puan kata tadi, kebanyakan perniagaan yang Bumiputera ni tak ada jaringan. Jadi kami nak sediakan jaringan dan melalui program ni you akan ada jaringan usahawan lain, jaringan dengan Equinas dan penting untuk network. Dan tadi bila cakap pasal fokus, kalau kita jumpa peluang perniagaan yang tak kena dengan dia, pas lah. Dan orang lain pas kat kita. Itu perlu berlaku. Dan ketiga, jangan campur aduk peribadi dengan bisnes. Jadi kalau kita lihat ramai bisnes ni, kewangan dia mix. So, dia perlu asingkan. Itu nasihat utama 3 lah kalau boleh beri hari ini.
Banyak lagi yang boleh dieksplor, tapi untuk waktu ini mungkin sedikit nasihat daripada Puan Wan Nadia.
Okey, saya ada 2 nasihat. Okey, yang pertama, bagi usahawan semua, kalau you percaya dengan value yang you bawa tu, teruskan. Just percaya dengan apa yang you buat, just do it. Okey, macam saya dulu pernah beberapa tahun yang lepas dalam satu business pitching, mereka mengatakan bisnes saya ni tak ada potensi, tak ada masa depan. Tapi itu adalah titik tolak untuk kami berusaha lebih keras untuk berada di mana kami berada di hari ini. Yang kedua, jangan berhenti belajar, sentiasa tambah ilmu, sentiasa mencari update terkini, apa ilmu terkini, knowledge untuk bantu bisnes kita grow. Itu saja.
Dan sebagai seorang usahawan dah dapatkan program Iltizam Catalyst dan nampak dia punya result ataupun keberkesanannya, what are they missing out kalau tak dapatkan program ni?
Okey, kalau tak berjaya dengan program Iltizam Catalyst, saya percaya di luar sana masih lagi banyak program-program lain yang orang cakap setara lah, walaupun Iltizam Catalyst ni saya boleh kata one of its kind. Kiranya sangat special dan dekat di hati saya. Sebab dia punya susunan program tu sangat berbeza lah dan sangat membantu. Tapi jangan kecewa kalau tak dapat. Usaha lagi tahun depan ataupun cuba cari di agensi-agensi yang lain.
Baik,
saya tambah boleh?
Boleh, silakan.
Okey, biar menyesal mohon, jangan menyesal tak mohon.
Biar menyesal mohon, jangan menyesal tak mohon. Yang penting mohon, dapat atau tidak nanti kita bincang kemudian. Okey, terima kasih diucapkan kepada Encik Hizwani Hassan, pengarah hal ehwal pihak berkepentingan Equinas, dan juga Puan Wan Nadia Farhana, Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif dan juga Pengasas Kirocare. Dan jelas bahawa program Iltizam Catalyst ini bukan saja nak buka peluang kepada PKS tempatan ataupun usahawan Bumiputera berkembang, malah membina ekosistem usahawan Bumiputera yang lebih mampan dan juga berdaya saing. Jadi untuk PKS yang ingin melonjak ke tahap seterusnya, dapatkan program Iltizam Catalyst ini. Dan saya kira itu sahaja untuk waktu ini. Saya Nabilah Khaleeda. Terima kasih kerana menonton.
When the superpowers move, the ground shifts. Power isn't just about might anymore. It's about narratives, networks, negotiation. We go beyond the noise to deliver laser-focused analysis on how power moves and what it means for the world. This is AWANI International, reporting the shifts in power affairs shaping the world.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda AWANI Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro AWANI.
Baru masuk Perma dah buat hal lah kau.
Tak sangka Victoria tu baik gila. Kau saja nak sabar aku kan? Oi, dia tahu tak?
The girls either have it or they don't.
Buang masa. Weh, kau nak belah macam tu je?
Generasi Perfect 10 stream episod terbaru eksklusif on demand dan 9 malam di Astro.
Malaysia perlu bergerak daripada sekadar menjadi pusat pembuatan kepada sebuah negara pencipta teknologi chip sendiri yang mampu memberi nilai tambah lebih tinggi kepada dunia. Kerajaan bersetuju untuk mempertimbangkan agar pengusaha bot di Sabah dan Sarawak turut layak menerima subsidi petrol RON 95. Sabah kini memiliki 2 tapak rizab biosfera susulan pengiktirafan diberikan kepada kinabatangan oleh UNESCO.
Gaza menjadi medan pembunuhan beramai-ramai dan penghapusan etnik yang sistematik terhadap penduduk Palestin dengan ratusan serangan udara dan darat menyasarkan kawasan kediaman, hospital, sekolah serta kem pelarian.
Polis Kuala Lumpur mengeluarkan 7,013 saman lalu lintas dalam tempoh 2 hari pelaksanaan penuh PUU.
Perbuatan menghidang atau menonjolkan minuman berasaskan arak dalam majlis rasmi kerajaan adalah bertentangan dengan hukum syarak, moral dan undang-undang negara.
Daulat Tuanku.
Thanks for joining us. This is The Economy with me, Ibrahim, Sani. Here we are still unpacking the budget 2026. Because we've had enough time, slightly over a week now, to understand and digest the budget a bit, we can then discuss what can be the implication coming from it. Here to discuss this and more is a good friend of the show, LANGSUNG, the head of tax at KPMG Malaysia. So let's talk a little bit more about the initial reaction from the budget. As I mentioned, we've had maybe 5 or 6 days now to sit down, think about it, and perhaps understand what kind of questions we need to ask from the details of it. For instance, what is your top level, I guess, comments coming in from Lonjakkan 2026?
Yeah, thanks, Ibrahim, for having me. I think honestly, when you look at it, I feel that budget 2026 is a kind of a heady hand in the uncertain time, in terms of that. It's not so flashy, but I think it's focused. Yeah, and of course, if you look at it, I have been saying that this budget is cautious and but bold in their direction. So they are actually seeing some commitment, continuous commitment in terms of the fiscal discipline, in terms of deficit, that how they're going to project it to narrow it further. That's my first impression.
Okay. Yeah. The numbers have been said by many of our colleagues on air, off air, in publication, comments, writings and so on, but we'll still repeat this. 421 billion expenditure for budget 2025, 419 billion expenditure for this year. I, for one hand, am not always applauding budget growing every year. I think that's scary, actually, if you ask me. So for the budget expenditure to decrease by 2 billion, I feel, this is my personal opinion, we're on the right track. Also, complementing this notion is that even though it's a slightly less expenditure budget, year on year, 25 versus 26, there is clear overtures in terms of increasing revenue, tax revenue by 2.7%.
Yeah.
Slightly above 300 billion ringgit and so on.
Yep.
So already I can imagine, okay, tax collection has to be tip-top, enforcement has to be there, supervision has to be there. But what needs to have happened to ensure that budget 2026 is going to be implemented as per aspiration by our government?
Okay, the way how I look at it, I think if you look at the expenditure that they have focused on, there are quite a few sectors that they're focusing on. I think in particular the agriculture. They actually move into a lot of initiative. If I were to compare the Belanjawan analysis, the sector, I think the amount of spending dropped significantly from the 2025 to 2026 estimation. So this could be one factor when you're talking about the drop of the expenditure in terms of how the figure being determined from that reason. Of course, if you look at it this year, when they announced of 470 million instead of the 421, there's a different category where they're talking about some expenditure allocated for GIC for that. Probably in the past years, it could be there, but it's not being segregated out. So the detail mechanism, I don't have it with me now, but it's from how the analysis work out.
Now, this is interesting. You're right. The aspect of GIC, GLIC, GLC to come in has always been there, but more of an unbudgeted amount and more of a notes towards the budget. For it to be included in this budget and for it to be summarized to 470 billion, is this expected by your end, especially one who has been observing the budget for maybe 10, 20 years?
my view, before the budget, I was expecting more of a moderate budget for this year. Of course, I did mention to say if this budget continue to emphasize on Madani vision, where you're talking about raising the floor, where the rakyat is to be taken care of, then I won't be surprised that the amount of the budget now being expanded from that perspective. Of course, the detail we need to analyze further, but that will be my comment as to the first impression on the budget.
Let's go back to your core competency, which is head of tax. We'll discuss a little bit at length about the carbon tax.
Yeah.
But this would be the first budget in recent memory that there would be no introduction of no new taxes. And you know, under the same breath, we're going to increase tax revenue by 2.7%. How do you factor these two elements in?
If you look at it, I think there are pockets here and there where with the expansion of the scope, no new taxes, put aside the carbon tax, but I think there are two that, when I look at it, the government actually introduced the 2% on the profit distribution.
Yeah.
That is something new, but probably from the broad category is an expansion from the dividend tax. That's one. I think the other one that is talking about is the stamp duty for foreign buyer from the 4% to 8%. I think these are the two new ones. But how I look at it, this is just announcement. What they call it, a headline of what is this budget all about. But I think to me, what is important, what is our new storyline? This is where the finance bill, guidelines, engagement got to come in fast as to like what to provide certainty to businesses and taxpayer. That is how I see it.
But do you think that it's getting clearer now in terms of how businesses can do their tax planning?
Well, I'm still waiting for the detailed guideline from the government in terms of that. Yeah, I hope when weeks come, it will be more clearer to the businesses.
Let's talk about individuals now. I think this is the part where many of us can resonate with. Rakyat getting a lot in terms of cash aid, tax reliefs, and of course the kind of headlines including Sumbangan Asas Rahmah Sara, which is 100 ringgit by middle of February. We're looking at STR as well as Sara for next year to be increased by 15 billion, coming in from subsidy savings, coming in from the Welfare Department or Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat with an allocation of 3.1 billion there. We're looking at more than 560,000 people being the recipients of this. Does this help the economy, I suppose, where we put cash in hand and people, I guess, getting more direct cash aid and cash access?
Well, from that perspective, it really supports the Madani vision, where we are talking about how to raise the floor and the tagline of no Malaysian is left behind. That would definitely help in terms of that, because that will actually contribute to the spending by the individual household. From the tax perspective, yes, there are quite a number of relief that has been introduced. In fact, the focus is more on those OKU families. You're talking about childcare, you're talking about healthcare and all that. But what is important that I observe from the Belanjawan analysis, the expectation of the collection from individual taxes, in fact, based on their projection, there will be an increase of 4.2 billion. So knowing what has been announced, there's only additional taxes that perhaps can collect from here will be the 2% of the profit distribution.
That's basically the new category, lah.
That's basically the new category. But even for that category, it's very interesting to also note how would then the individual at the high net worth be affected. Right now, the question here would be, as an individual high net worth, they may be receiving a different category of income. Employment, you continue to be taxed under employment. If those individuals who have received corporate dividend in the past, 2%. Now with this 2% of profit distribution, the ambiguous question will be, would it be classified as one to earn the 100,000 threshold? Or is it this 100,000 threshold is given to a different category of income? Yet to be seen. because finance bill is not out.
Yeah.
We need to look at it, the wording of the legislation, because this currently remain unclear. So the jump of 4.2 billion, very interesting to note whether what is the portion that is expected to collect from this group, plus perhaps the new individual taxpayer that being registered, or there's another angle, is that means that the hasil going to increase their enforcement on these high net worth individuals.
Speaking about supervision and enforcement, what's your comment on increasing the operational expense for enforcement, i.e. The OPEX for LHDN, for SPRM, for instance, or any other agencies that is meant to tighten the leakages? Do you see an increase beyond your budget, or do you feel that they have to work with peruntukan sedia ada?
My feeling is that I think in the current time, when we talk about productivity, especially when you look at some of this initiative, even when we talk about the new incentive team, also talking about KPI, my view that as a start, it should work with the current peruntukan. However, if there's a new initiative that you require a special skill to actually venture into what need to be done, then perhaps the additional peruntukan is to beef up or upskilling that category. Otherwise, as a general rule, the way how I look at it, yeah, we should work around within the current peruntukan.
On top of the headcount and management costs, one is also looking at capex and improvements of automation, as well as AI mechanisms to improve on the collection. Is this an area of concern for you to see our agencies from LHDN to MOF and more, to see more automation and more AI being implemented so that we can actually tighten that enforcement level and supervision level?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a concern to me, but I would like to comment that in fact it's a good initiative what the agency has done so far. When we talk about hasil, I can see a lot of improvement in terms of the collection effort mechanism of collecting taxes, past taxes. I think that effort should continue. Now, in terms of using AI, obviously I don't have much detail of that, but I think in terms of agency together with the profiling department, that can be enhanced further to go into the target. Because when you look at taxpayer in a country, if you apply the pyramid scheme, for example, generally, I believe most taxpayer in the country wants to pay the right amount of tax, which actually fall down to the base of the pyramid. Now, what happened to the top? That is where we need this sophisticated tool to identify those that decided from day one not to comply with these taxes.
Yeah.
And this should be the group that we should go after too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But details are scant, I suppose, coming in from this budget.
Well, the details yet to be seen,
Yeah.
but I suppose this will fall back to the implementer rather than the policymaker.
Oh, I see now.
Yeah.
All right, back to that question of implementer. I hope the implementer has enough firepower to actually carry out, because I don't know about you, but I have full faith in our LHDN, for instance, to do what is needed to be done. We got agencies and, of course, bodies like CTIM, a member of your own body, the Chartered Tax Institute of Malaysia, to actually advise the MOF, Treasury, on how best to improve on the allocation of taxation on tax evaders and people who game their tax planning, as well as the so-called Mahakaya lah. I think that element of trying to see how we can do best in terms of the pillar that we have right now is also important to be seen, and I think a lot of us, a lot of our viewers can agree with us now.
Yeah.
Before we go into the business element of taxation, I also want to talk about broadening the tax base, which is always the evergreen question that I ask all my guests, including you. Actually, I don't remember the number of times I've had you over. Definitely more than 5 times. I'm wondering whether or not it has been 10 times since the days of my BFM days. But do you feel that this budget is doing anything to broaden the tax base, which we know is going to be very narrow compared to our peers in the region?
Well, if I were to compare to last budget, based on the announcement, I feel the expansion, or rather the base, has not really so wide compared to last year. But take, for example, the one I just mentioned about the profit distribution. There's one good example how this is being expanded. Other than that, if you were to look at some minor details of those changes, it may look like an expansion, but then looking at the detail, it could be review of certain condition that perhaps being tightened. Yeah, but then again, I don't have the further details, but this is just a first impression by reading at the budget speech together with those appendices. For example, like there's one review of incentive of giving scholarship, for example.
Yeah.
If you notice that in the past years, this incentive already there, but the one that the category of education level they've given in the past include master and PhD. But this round, if you notice, the master and PhD has been taken out, number one. Number two, obviously, they also included the household threshold as one of the conditions before this is being given that deduction. So it looks expanded. However, the minor here and there may make it more tightened or rigid in terms of claiming.
So we're also, we would be remiss if we don't mention for the education sector, for instance, free education is going to be given to 5,800 people. TVET allocation has been pumped up from 5 billion plus to 7.9 billion. Bumiputera education collectively with Yayasan Peraju, UITM as well as MARA has been increased to 6 billion. These are awesome things, if you ask me, especially when we talk about upskilling and reskilling our talents to embrace a little bit more tech, a little bit more IT, a little bit more AI there, here and there. Speaking of which, Talent Corp also is being mandated to execute the AI programs to actually work collaboratively with Kasuma and Kementerian Digital and so on. So I actually see where all this is coming from. But, you know, there's also fun things, not fun, I guess, socially empowering things like 4,000 ringgit to dispose of old vehicles. You know, I have a nice story here. When I graduated from university, I bought a very nice Kia car for about 40,000, used it for 10 years. It became a besi buruk by the time of its shelf life. I didn't know where to dispose of it. I really didn't know.
Okay.
I had a chat with a friend over at Kedai Mama. You know, we spoke about billion things, just like two friends over Kedai Mama would do. And then, you know, the question of, hey, how do I dispose of my car? Because it's already karat, you know, with the lobang there and everything. He said, oh, you just use custom. And, you know, at that point in time, this was 10 years ago, I didn't know what custom was, you know, and the assayer came over, assessed the car, took the car off my hands for 2,500 ringgit. It's amazing. I was thinking of me paying custom to take away the car, you know what I mean? But the fact that they want to offer money to take away my car is also an awesome thing.
Right.
Then, over the years, I realized that for high-density areas, especially urban areas like flats and, of course, PPR and move on to, you know, high income condos like Monkiara, for instance, you know, so many of these old vehicles. And clearly, when the government gives 4,000 ringgit incentive for you to dispose of your old vehicles, I think this is cheaper than, you know, asking a Bandaraya Tempatan or whatever to actually dispose of the car. So things like this, does you see this as helping, you know, not just the rakyat, but actually beautifying our urban places as well?
Well, I mean, from that angle, I will kind of like agree. Yes, it's a good initiative when they come up with this scheme. And if it's done effectively with a proper kind of a planning and all that, and with the support of everyone, I think that objective can be achieved. But speaking of training and upskilling that you mentioned, this budget, I think from the tax angle, there's this tax incentive for training in AI.
Yeah, which is also, before you jump into that, let's ask the question. So businesses, I think moving from individuals, we now move to businesses. There's tax incentives for training in AI and addressing operational bottlenecks. Claims can be done, but they require Talent Corp approval, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
3 billion ringgit of HRD Corp training funds are going to be disbursed because of this. And many more. And of course, Yayasan Peraju is, of course, a big deal in terms of trying to help in this space as well. all this, do you think businesses are going to be able to, I guess, work towards and get these kind of incentives to actually upskill their own people?
Well, I look at it, I think it's a very positive move from the government to initiate this, because when you look at it, when the whole of the country, we wanted to push for AI and digitalization roadmap. And I think this is one baby step that we could actually promote to the company, especially the MSMI. But I think the ground reality here is, are we going too advanced to even talk about AI? Are all the MSME even ready with the digitalization at the very basic? It will be good. I would like to see perhaps not jump into AI, or rather this should include not just AI, but include the basic digitalization, right? Because that would then perhaps encourage more, in particular the MSME to participate. But the wording in the proposal talking about 50% tax deduction once in 2 years. I would like to clarify further, what does it mean by once in 2 years? Is it a situation where a company is allowed to actually choose which particular year that they want to claim, or which particular year that is more beneficial? So there is something that is rightfully, we don't have that details, but it's good, perhaps in my view, to give some kind of flexibility. Then people can actually maximize more. And the sound, Ibrahim, you just mentioned about talent corp, bottleneck and all that. I think that is reality. Right now, we do not know how that administrative process is going to be. Perhaps one way to overcome that could be setting up some sort of pre-approval mechanism in place. Then this would definitely facilitate. Otherwise, with these administrative challenges, that may actually discourage more companies to come forward and claim.
Yeah. Still on businesses, business tax or corporate tax was barely mentioned. No changes there.
Yep.
GST doesn't seem to be in the air.
Yep.
SST seems to be at a holding pattern of 8%, with no indication that the SST coverage is going to be widened. So I don't know about avocado and all the other items going to be put in place. So for businesses, I think this is a very budget-friendly, a business-friendly budget, no?
Oh yeah, from that angle I would agree. But of course, if you look at it, the government also have mentioned a few, such as new investment incentive scheme, where encourage more companies to come forward. In this case, they have mentioned about manufacturing and the service line to change rather the way how to claim this incentive more towards the outcome base. So to me, this is to attract more quality type of investment to come in. So of course, in order to do that, we are talking about compliance, where companies who have proper procedure to monitor all this and go into the right framework to claim, I think they can actually get the most benefit out of that. Whether the question is whether for MSME, where their resources are limited, whether this will pose more administrative work rather than just, unlike in the past, where you can claim those incentives either based on your product or based on your activity, and once you submit, you get the approval, and that's it. But now you need to actually track it. You need to actually monitor it. I mean, bandwidth is one thing for MSME, but there's also competency. Yeah, that's right.
Then, you know, you're not really seeing an uptick there, because if they don't have that competency, they have to hire folks like KPMG, for instance, to do their accounting with them.
I'm happy with that.
But what is the reality here? I don't think they can. So I don't know whether we're going to see any uptick there. But in that sense, this might work with larger companies.
True. Very true.
And of course, GLCs, GLICs, I suppose.
2 points I would like to add on that is also good to provide this certainty to the company would be, what happened to those companies have already gotten some sort of incentive? Now, with these changes, what happened then?
Yeah.
So it's still.
You mean, is it going to run concurrently?
Is it going to run concurrently? Is it going to replace?
Yeah.
Are we seeing a transition period that to phase that out?
Yeah.
Still not sure yet. The other thing is those companies who actually enjoy the Pillar 2, right now, would there be any, is this incentive something that can replace? We are still not sure, whether how can it make available to their current incentive that no longer provide some sort of this tax benefit. There will be this few question mark, and we would like the guideline to be out soon so that it provides certainty to taxpayer.
Let's talk a little bit more about the segmentation of growth by sector. You touched a bit. Agriculture, we're seeing a forecasted of 2.2% growth compared to 1.2%. Manufacturing is decreasing year on year, 3.8% last year, this year versus 3.0% projected for or forecasted for next year. Services is about the same at 5.2, 4.1%. Construction is going to see a major decrease from 10% to 6%. And with this, why I'm bringing this up is because next year we're going to see Visit Malaysia Year 2026.
Yes.
We're going to see a lot of companies, especially in the services sector, more precisely in the hospitality business, perhaps even in the transportation business, to drive up beautification and improvements on their facilities and capex. With this, the government has allocated a 500,000 ringgit renovation expense tax relief, I suppose, to be capped at 500,000. So what should businesses be looking out for on this front?
I think this is more focusing on those tourism projects. My view, this is very helpful where, however, businesses must also be careful before they actually claim it. I don't think it's talking about spending. It should be looking at the compliance, where they need to keep proper records and all that. Again, we don't have the details now, but if I were to compare it to the post-COVID, where they allow renovation costs to be claimed. So if I were to draw parallel to the past, take note, in the past they require the certified by external auditor. So it's not as simple as I just claim it, you need to be certified. There will be list of eligible costs. What are those fitting, what are those lighting and so forth. They also spell out those ineligible costs as well. Mainly are those professional fees and the other important is a claim of timing. In the past, they will look at when the services is performed rather you pay. So these are the things that I think businesses should take note of. But looking at this sector, just now I did some research. When you talk about claiming this renovation by the tourism project, you're talking about those operator that must register with MOTAC. So currently, based on 2022 statistics that I have, I think it's only about 4,766 companies that actually registered with MOTAC.
It could be slightly more now.
Could be slightly more now.
But still within that range.
Exactly. So again, we are just talking about these limited numbers. So it'll be good to see whether just not the company that registered, but able to substantiate that they are actually promoting this, will be given a chance to claim as well.
The impact, therefore, might not necessarily be so substantial, no?
Yep, totally agree. Totally agree.
But I guess a little bit here, a little bit there adds up to the big idea.
Yes.
Now, this is one of the biggest items that I want to explore, which is the stamp duty reform. This is one of the key factors of how LHDN makes money. You know, while we're seeing the 2.7% tax revenue increase, stamp duty reforms are also being announced. How does this tally between these two, I guess, opposing statements? And what is your take on it?
Sure. Probably I would like to mention that I don't think is what LHDN want to make money on this. The way how I look at it, if you look at the development of the Act, stamp duty is the last Act that have not gone for self-assessment. The rest of the Act has already gone for self-assessment. So now there's a comparison between official assessment system and the self-assessment system. So if you understand a little bit more, under the official assessment system, where taxpayer will bring whatever document to Hasil and say, please stamp for me. And it's actually Hasil's duty to determine, number one, is it stampable? Number two, is it what is the rate to be applied? Now with self-assessment coming into play, it's a shift to the taxpayer. So taxpayer now got to actually determine whether is it standable or not. And because of that, I think it triggered a lot of questions as to like, is this something that's standable? In the past, I have never stamped before. So all that coming. And my understanding for this year before self-assessment, Hasil has carried out friendly awareness stamp duty audit. Okay. And that itself...
So what does that mean, friendly?
Friendly
as
in the
opposed
sense,
to hostile?
Friendly in the sense that they come in with education, trying to actually let the taxpayer know that whatever they have not complied, they must comply way forward, and they are quite flexi in terms of the punitive.
A bit of an amnesty as well.
So to be fair to Hasil, I think there's this good move, good initiative. This budget, how it complement, I see there are some exemptions, there are some reduced rates for the first-time buyer and SME. Now all this, I suppose, is good, but of course there are rooms to enhance. I would like to touch on two areas. I think in this budget speech, they mentioned about employment contracts, where the exemption has now been increased from 300 to 3,000. Of course, we can debate about it because 300 that was fixed, it was in 1949. Now, 2025, is it equivalent to the category of 2,000?
Yeah.
Maybe now the figure could be more, perhaps. But anyhow, I would like to thank the government. At least they listen. They still increase to 3,000 as a start. Now, that itself, from that initiative, I trust that it can take off a lot of this administrative work from the particular company. But again, issue come in will be, even though it's exempted, is it still very clear that exempted documents still do not need to be stamped? You see, this is exempted.
I assume so, no?
Yeah, still need to be stamped. That is where we want clarity.
But so because I assumed
but the understanding here is when we look at the 1949 Act, currently it has not been revamped yet. So there's a provision there to suggest that even though it's exempted, you may still need to stamp and get it exempted. So the administrative work would stop being lifted from that. Employment contract, there will be also question is to, would it be the first employment contract to be stamped, subsequent renewals, subsequent promotions, subsequent whatever lah, even up to termination. Does it still fall under this specific rigid definition of stamping? Of course, my view is if it's related to one, then it should not.
Yeah, but that's your view.
Yes, my view. Exactly. Correct.
If it's not clarified,
then
my view is different from yours.
Exactly.
And then both of us go to Hasil and we have a different expectation.
Correct. And then when you're talking about businesses that involve short-term and ad hoc workers, this can be viewed as non-employment but more service agreement type. Then the rate is not 10 ringgit. It's 0.1%. Yeah, betul. Then it's 0.1%. Then the question is,
are they applicable or not?
Applicable, then of course you're talking about the amount. Imagine now self-assessment, I need to calculate and compute and pay. Same goes to director's appointment. It's a service agreement. 0.1%. So that is on employment. So there are many questions that still unanswered. I believe most taxpayer wants to comply, but they just need clarity.
And now, of course, I'm sure LHGN or whoever is going to...
That's right. I still have a few points when you talk about self-assessment. In fact, our wish list here is to ask the government to consider pushing the self-assessment to a later date, so that perhaps that gives more taxpayer more time. But of course, we can understand that it may still have to go on. I think it's fine. But I think what is important, greater details of guideline to be issued. Many businesses right now, if you look at it, you ask them about stamp duty rule. To most of them, they will say, these are all new rules. But in fact, the law is already there from day one. It will be good for the government to consider waiver or penalty at least for 1 year in this process of self-assessment. And how do we want to promote voluntary disclosure program for them to come forward for past record? So I think what is important, let's move forward rather than go back, you see. And of course, the other one is, if you look at what the government currently trying to implement into 3 phases, 26, 27, 28, 26 phase is actually quite broad. So our suggestion here is maybe we can start off with a more simple, like tenancy agreement first, then let people would settle down how the law applies, then only you apply. 3 important points is that even the current law, Section 35A, still not very clear about who is responsible for submitting the returns. So is it the same person that is liable to pay the stamp duty to submit? Right? Now, what happened if both parties agree and say, oh, tak apa, I yang bayar. Then how? I think the law doesn't provide that. In the event of audit under self-assessment, who does IRB want to go after? Especially in the case of non-resident, for example. So that part is not clear.
Which is going to be a big topic if you're looking for this type of contracts.
Of course. And the last important one, under the service agreement, we have this third schedule that only refer to obligor as the liable party. Now, a lot of interpretation about this. Does it mean that the party who is paying for the service means obligor? Or is it the party that provide the service? I think taxpayer wants certainty. So these are the things that may impact businesses if this certainty are not being achieved.
Do you think that the timeline is going to be very tight in terms for Hasil to come up with the guidelines because 1st January is just around the corner?
Yeah, we are just hoping that the guideline can be out within this month, perhaps. Then at least you still have 2 months to digest. Even that also to communicate with the relevant stakeholder, it would definitely take time as well.
All right, if you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to astroawani.com. You can also check out all the coverages that we've been giving over for Belanjawan 2026. Just search for Astro Awani Belanjawan 2026. Until then, thanks very much for watching and catch you in the next one. You guys have a great week ahead.
Terbukti bahawa tahap kesediaan digital yang tinggi membolehkan usahawan PMKS menerima kemajuan teknologi, meningkatkan inovasi.